Welcome to the El Cajon City Council meeting. The meeting is called to order. I'd like to ask our city clerk to please call the roll. Thank you. Would you all stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance and then remain standing for a brief moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The city clerk posted orders of adjournment of the April 22nd, 2025 meeting, the joint special meetings of the April 22nd and May 5th, and the agenda of the May 13th, 2025 meeting in accordance with state law, city council, and housing authority policy. We have two presentations on today's agenda. The first one is a proclamation for National Public Works Week. Will Director of Public Works, David Richards, please come to the podium and accept the proclamation, which I will read. Hi, David.
Hey.
Let me read this proclamation for you, okay? Whereas public works professionals focus on infrastructure, facilities, and services that are of vital importance to sustainable and resilient communities and to public health, high quality of life, and the well-being of the people of the city of El Cajon. And whereas these infrastructure, facilities, and services could not be provided without the dedicated efforts of public works professionals, who are engineers, managers, and employees at all levels of government and the private sector, who are responsible for rebuilding, improving, and protecting our nation's transportation, water supply, water treatment, solid waste systems, public buildings, and other structures and facilities essential for our citizens. And whereas is in the public interest for the citizens, civic leaders, and children in the city of El Cajon to gain knowledge of and maintain an ongoing interest and understanding of the importance of public works and public works programs in their respective communities. And whereas the year 2025 marks the 65th Annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Now, therefore, I, Bill Wells, Mayor of the City of El Cajon, together with the City Council, do hereby designate the week of May 18th through the 24th, 2025 as National Public Works Week, and urge all citizens to join with representatives of the American Public Works Association and government agencies and activities, events, and ceremonies designed to pay tribute to our public works professionals, engineers, managers, and employees, and to recognize the substantial contributions they all make to protect our national health, safety, and advancing quality of life for all. All right.
Cool. Thank you. Cool. And I wanted to take a quick 2 minutes to make a few comments. So today I'm here to help celebrate the incredible employees who make up our public works team. You see them out here in the audience. I'd like to invite our public works team to come forward as I share a few words. So come on up, if you guys don't mind. There's plenty of room. You can just wrap around. And then I would also like to real quickly recognize our engineering staff who are in the room. While we're now separate departments, the work that they do remains important to what we do as we build new infrastructure and maintain our infrastructure. I want to start by saying that over the past year, I've had the proud opportunity of serving with these folks. These are the people who you can call at 2 p.m. and you can call at 2 a.m. and they're here when we need them the most. This past year, for instance, our public works team went above and beyond. In fact, probably 95% of our staff worked round the clock for a month straight to prevent a sewer disaster on Graves, or over by Graves and Beach Street. In addition, when a fuel tanker spilled onto Fletcher Parkway, our crews were quick to respond to stop and contain the fuel, and our engineering department quickly went to work to make sure that our city was restored to the condition that our residents expect. Next week marks National Public Works Week, and this year's theme is People, Purpose, and Presence. The annual celebration gives us an opportunity to formally recognize these folks for what they do day in and day out, much of which happens behind the scenes and has a daily impact on the quality of life of our residents. Our team ensures that toilets flush and sewer systems operate safely, fire trucks, police cars, and other facilities or other vehicles are maintained and ready to respond. City facilities remain safe and functional for both the employees and the public, that potholes are filled, streets are cleaned, traffic signals and street striping are maintained, and sidewalks are safe and walkable. And our storm channels are cleaned to protect our neighborhoods from flooding. Public Works employees are also among the first responders during emergencies. They close roads during investigations and traffic collisions, clear fallen trees and debris, respond to storm events and flood risks, and work around the clock to prevent and mitigate sewer failures. Please join me in thanking the incredible team of professionals for their commitment to keeping El Cajon running safely and smoothly every single day.
And I heard this from our police chief. A couple of our public works staff were out doing their business, cleaning up and taking care of things, and somebody that was having probably a mental episode flipped out on them and started hitting their truck and trying to assault them. And they took care of business, and they took care of themselves. They kept the city safe until the police got there. That's the kind of stuff that they deal with, and they're quiet about it, and they just are humble and have this amazing drive. And I just really appreciate all the things that they do for us day in, day out, behind the scenes, and sometimes very visible. So thank you to them.
Thank you. Anybody on the council want to say anything? Michelle?
Gentlemen, I don't see any ladies, so I'll just say gentlemen. Thank you so much. You do the heavy lifting in the city, literally, right? And I appreciate all the work that you do. Our streets are looking great. The city's looking good. And being married to someone who works in facilities, I appreciate the hard work, the sweatiness, the hunger, everything that you guys go through. I appreciate that, because my man comes home and I'm sure he's just as tired as you guys are, and I appreciate all that you do. And thank you very much for your dedication and hanging in there. I know it's not a fancy job, and I know it's not glory. You guys don't get all the glory, but I really do appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
Yeah, just take a couple minutes to say thank you as well. I'll chime in where she left off, Councilmember Mitchell left off with getting the glory. I always have viewed our public work team, I'm a football guy, so my football analogy, if you guys watch football, as our offensive linemen of the city. And you guys are in the trenches doing all the work, so no offense, Graham and Vince. So those guys don't get their suits dirty, so the quarterback doesn't get their suits dirty. They're in there grinding in the trenches, doing all the hard work, hard lifting. That's what every one of you guys do. But it's about the team. You guys are just as much, if not most of the team as anyone else is. Even though you don't get the glory and the accolades, you guys are like the O-linemen, so they can stay pretty. But I prefer getting dirty. So well done, boys.
And when you're not playing football, you are Team MacGyver, because you are the ones that come up with the solutions that there's not always a plan written for a solution, but you have to come up with an idea, something like that. So you are all, men and women, the toughest and the brightest that keep our city running. So thank you so much.
Mr. Ortiz, I don't know if I like that analogy, because a lot of quarterbacks buy their linemen Escalades at the end of the season. Gentlemen, none of you getting a free car.
Now you guys know what to ask for. He brought it up.
Well, I appreciate everything that you guys do, especially on those hot 100-degree summer El Cajon days. I wish I could provide you with a little personal air conditioner to blow cool air on you. And in most cases, you don't work where there's air conditioning. And I know you must come home absolutely exhausted, and I just want you to know that that doesn't go unnoticed. So thank you.
I echo what everybody else has said, but one thing that I think about a lot is that your job over the years has evolved in some situations that nobody ever would have thought when they first started doing this kind of work. And you stepped up and helped the city. And I know most people don't know it, but I know it, and I think about it a lot. So thank you very much.
Oh, and just a quick note, I don't see her in the audience here, but Nicole from Engineering Services has been helping out for a while. So I know we're giving acclimates to the men, but also the, is she back there? Oh. Hey. The women of Public Works as well. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. You guys have a great day. Next, we have a presentation for America on Main Street. Our Parks and Recreation Director, Adam Trondrud, will you please join us at the podium to tell us about this? Hi, Adam.
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor and council members and city staff, for the opportunity to tell you about America on Main Street today. It is our annual free community event. It is going to be this Saturday from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. All through out downtown El Cajon. It's free admission to all that attend, and we like to call it El Cajon's biggest block party. Really want to highlight our sponsors. So our premier sponsor was Downtown El Cajon Business Partners. We've also had a diamond sponsorship from Kaiser Permanente and a platinum sponsorship from Saquon Band of the Kumeyaay Nation. And then we had several smaller sponsors that came through this year. And I'm proud to say that since we relaunched America on Main Street after COVID, this is the most sponsorship that we have received. And how did we market the event? So we used social media. We also had postcards go out to our residents. We did email blasts to all of our participants. If you've driven down Main Street, you've seen our billboard. We also had the opportunity to work with Arabic TV this year and do a spot on Arabic TV. And street banners, also our spring rec guide. And then on Thursday morning, our own Heather Carter, our Parks and Rec manager, is going to be at KUSI News doing a spot to promote America on Main Street. Some of the event highlights, so face painting, I don't get it personally, but it is an incredibly high highlight. The kids stand in line for 40 minutes for it, so that is one of our ones that we have every time. We'll have 3 live entertainment stages. We will have carnival rides and bounce houses. We will have a petting zoo. We will also have a public works zone, so our partners from Public Works that were just up here are going to do some interactive activities and have some really cool big pieces of equipment. The kids love to check those things out, so we really appreciate that. We'll have games and crafts, and the only thing that's on this list that is of any cost is our food and craft sales vendors that are coming in. Everything else is free to all of our community members. This is a fun map, and this is actually our fun map that will go out to all of the people that come in attendance. We will have kiosks at all of the entry points, and this just tells all of our patrons where everything is. So if you kind of look over where the county lot is and down on Main Street towards the eastern side will be our amusement rides. The green labels are our food areas. And then we'll have more activities in the promenade along with 3 stages, Centennial Plaza, Main Street stage, and then the promenade stage. And then one of the things I wanted to highlight this year is on Rhea Avenue, we're going to have Armed Forces Way. We are going to have the Army, the Navy, our own Veterans Coalition, an organization that works with veterans called Courage to Call will be here. And then we will also have American Legion Post 303. And one of the really cool things that we're having this year too is one of our Veterans Coalition members who is also an American Legion Post 303 member is also a drone instructor. He works over at Grossmont College, and he is going to bring out drone soccer for the youth to be able to participate in. So we think that'll be a really nice addition to the event. And that is my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions? Thanks. We're looking forward to it. It's always a great event.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a couple of things out of order. Mr. Beamer, how's your time? Yeah. Okay, well, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do consent items, and then after that, we have to do a closed session item while our attorney is still here, and then we'll come back and do public comment. It shouldn't take very long. So now we're now consent items. Consent items are routine matters enacted by one motion according to the recommendation listed below. With the concurrence of the city council, a council member or person in attendance may request discussion of a consent item at this time. Council members, do you wish to pull any of the consent items? Okay, staff?
No, sir.
Angela, do we have any speaker cards for consent items? Okay, hi, Truth, coming up.
Hi there. Okay, so via transportation, I forget what the, what do you call it? Top company was called? I can't remember the word. But I actually gave a call to Via Transportation to try it out, and no luck. Their website claimed one could book a ride without using the app, yet if one tries to call, they actually ask for a phone number, and then they say one must pre-register and create an account through the app. So false advertising. And this process to waste my time took extra time because their computer system was reportedly slow. I'm not sure what's up with that. It was actually a faster, more efficient experience to take a bus or trolley instead. So the system seemed like a dud, and who in the world wants dangerous, fire-prone EVs on the road anyways, or wants to actually have to pay to ride in one? So this is a service I'm never going to use anywhere. So. And it's not just the app thing. You guys can't even have a good computer system. So I think it's a bad investment, personally. I know that you have certain agencies like Sandag that are promoting this form as some kind of realistic mode of transportation. It's not, because you go, okay, what's the point of a bus? What's the point of a trolley? Are these private companies going to compete with what we already have, the systems that are already in place that every single taxpaying resident is contributing to the system, whether they ride or not? And they're going to contribute more when you have these extra taxes and vehicle registration fees coming up soon. And so I actually have an idea that I have yet to say to MTS, because I don't like talking to those people, wasting my time when they continue to go this way downhill. But I actually think that they should have their own versions of these same little circuit shuttles or whatever they are, because then you can actually make money and maintain the system. If this is really viable, because Sandag is saying that it is and pushing it everywhere, well, then why not have MTS and NCTD have their own versions of it and make money? Stay in business. Quit wasting our money. Thank you.
Thank you, Truth. Anybody else? Okay, we're going to diverge from the agenda for a moment. Oh, I forgot about that. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, anybody else have anything they want to say about consent items? So then I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
Please vote. Okay, now I will ask our city attorney to lead us into the closed session.
The City Council is going to meet in closed session on 3 items. The first is item number 23, closed session for a conference with legal counsel on existing litigation pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9. The name of the case is City of El Cajon versus Jessica Detta and Bessman Calascio et al. The second is a closed session for a conference with legal counsel on existing litigation pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9, Timothy Howell versus the City of El Cajon. And the third is a closed session for conference with legal counsel on existing litigation pursuant to paragraph 1 of subdivision D of Government Code section 54956.9. It's a workers' comp claim of Kenneth Harris versus City of El Cajon.
All right, I make a motion then to adjourn the closed session. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be back as quick as we can to conclude the meeting. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. I'm going to ask our city attorney to report on closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council met in closed session on 3 items. All 3 of them were conference with legal counsel on existing litigation. The City Council gave direction, or there was no direction given on item 23. It was an informational item. And item 24, there was no direction necessary as informational. Item 25, direction was given to the workers' comp adjusting agent for the city attorney.
And again, I want to thank the audience for being patient with us while we had to take that out of order. We are now at public comment. At this time, any person may address a matter within the jurisdiction of the City Council, Housing Authority, successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency that is not on the agenda. Comments relating to items on today's agenda are to be taken at the time that the item is heard. State law prohibits discussion or action on items not on the agenda. However, City Council and Housing Authority members may briefly respond to statements or questions, and an item may be placed on a future agenda. Angela, do we have any speaker cards for public comment?
Yes, sir, we do. We have one from Truth.
Hey, Truth.
There we go. This is for Steve. Who wants defended useless, dangerous roundabouts? A May 11th San Diego Union Tribune story entitled, "Local Stats Show North County Roundabouts Perform Poorly," said, quote, "Traffic stats for 2 roundabouts along Highway 101 indicate the devices may be causing more problems than they solve. Collisions have skyrocketed at a roundabout where Carlsbad Boulevard intersects with State Street. After fewer than 1 collision annually before the installation, there were 28 collisions in 2020 through 2024 after the roundabout. Also performing poorly is a roundabout in Encinitas," end quote. I was right. Next, again, I saw that the last meeting was full of paid minions from as far away as North County. Those divisive self-proclaimed comrades, which is a communist term, had much hate to spread into El Cajon again. Some even use the violent phrase eradicate. Some use the name Becky as a disparaging term, which is pretty racist when I know a Mexican official named Becky Boutros. Someone claimed that if someone has brown skin and brown hair, that they will fall in line and conform with their extremist views. Well, too bad I'm proof that's not true. But I am not here to defend Phil Ortiz. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm actually in the middle. But I am against lies, manipulation, and hate, and that includes retaliation. Because the recall effort is a clear political attack by outside organizations. They know they can't get Bill, so Phil's the next in line as their political target. Meanwhile, real city business that they failed to notice, the lawsuit from the women who alleged their civil rights were violated on February 2nd when concealed cameras were discovered in the workplace bunk rooms at Fire Station 8. The city should have immediately addressed this issue on February 3rd, not May 5th. Chances are many people in the building likely knew that there were cameras, so people need to take all safety seriously, especially of women. And I'd also like to ask that, Bill, if you're going to be involved with EPA Director Lee Zeldin, that you take the issue of Mexico's environmental terrorism in the form of sewage hitting our country on a daily basis for decades seriously enough to address on a recurring basis, not just one time at a press conference that I imagine Supervisor Joel Anderson invited you and Vista Mayor John Franklin also running to. Please do not campaign on a crisis like IB Mayor Paloma Aguirre has been doing. Tariffs are but one route to demand environmental compliance. There's also local action at Sandag where no toll money could be offered to Mexico for the future Otay Mesa East border crossing, or even not allowing cars through that are out of compliance with California emission standards. I welcome any new faces who truly want to add their support for real solutions to the sewage emergency. But if someone's not fully on board, I want them out of the way. The positive is that the modern-day redcoats, the Mexico loyalists, are starting to be exposed. Whether they receive $500,000 from Mexican businessmen, like corrupt Nathan Fletcher did, or whether they push for Mexico to get money in projects like Chula Vista Councilmember Carolina Chavez keeps doing, or whether they have voted no against pollution solutions like IB Mayor Paloma Aguirre did. I want real people involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
This is like the second time I've heard that the city was notified, or the February 2nd date of the camera, and that we waited till May 5th. And I'm hearing that we responded by opening a police investigation the next day. What can you tell me about the dates?
Mr. Goebel, not even the next day, but within less than an hour of us being notified of the cameras, we actually opened up a criminal investigation. The cameras were turned over to law enforcement, and we've been operating under that investigation since then?
So I think it's important for the public to know, for the record, we were on top of this thing. Our police department were there. They didn't wait till May. They didn't even wait what sounds like till the next business day. So we do take these things absolutely seriously. And once again, our police department is on top of keeping people safe and doing a great investigation.
Good point, Steve. Thank you. Okay, we have no written communications on today's agenda. We have one public hearing on today's agenda. Item 11 is for delinquent refuse recycling collection charges. Staff will tell us all about this.
All right, good afternoon, Council. Before I get started, I'd like to quickly introduce our EDCO executive team members who are here tonight. We have Steve South, EDCO's CEO, and we have also Carl Scherbaum, EDCO's general manager, and then Anthony, forgive me if I get your name wrong, is it Colomb, environmental coordinator, and then Director of Revenue Management, Cindy Horn. So they're here as support to help answer any questions that you may have about this report.
Thanks.
The purpose of today's hearing is to receive public testimony and confirm and authorize the placement of liens to be placed on properties where the tenants have neglected to pay their refuse and recycling bills. On January 1st, 2021, the city established entered into a franchise agreement with EDCO to provide residential and commercial refuse, recycling, and green, organic waste services in the city. As part of the franchise agreement, EDCO may collect directly from customers for the cost of services. There are exemptions if residents choose not to participate or have trash service. They're pretty specific and very far and few. Their property has to be vacant as one condition, or they could self-haul their waste and recycling. They could have a current EDCO commercial account in the city under the name, under their name, and then hauled to that address. In instances when customers do not pay the fees, the city assists EDCO by placing a lien on the properties for delinquent amounts. The collected outstanding balances then gets remitted back to EDCO. So we're in the fourth year of using a property lien process with EDCO. This table shows the historic average of delinquent accounts dating back to 2017. The green shows the past 4 years of liens with EDCO, and the blue shows an annual average liens when the city was with Waste Management. The Waste Management accounting process used to collect 3 times per year, so that blue number is based on an average. As of January 2025, there were a total of 1,019 delinquent accounts. But as you can see here, as of April 23rd, the number of delinquent accounts has been reduced to 206 accounts. April 23rd is the date that I submitted the staff report. You should have an updated lien list in front of you, I think. Yes, okay, good. Reflecting the most current, which either, is it 152, 149? It's 149 delinquent accounts to this moment. It's 155, yeah. So that number's gone down to 149. EDCO has placed a great deal of effort on bringing the accounts back into good standings through a variety of outreach methods, including traditional mailings, multiple invoices, emails, carts, notices on carts, automated calls, and personal calls from representatives. As you can see, the outreach has paid off in reducing the number of accounts that are delinquent. And with that, that concludes my presentation. At this time, staff recommends conducting the public hearing, adopting resolution, confirming the what you have in front of you is 155 accounts, and we'll get that number right tomorrow as people continue to pay the end of day today. With a value of approximately $46,000 with fees as delinquent, and authorize the city clerk to record the amounts owed on each account as a lien.
Thank you, David. Any questions for Dave? Go ahead, Steve.
Hi, Dave. The list looks like mostly residential accounts, or is it a mix of residential and commercial?
I believe they're all single-family residential.
So the commercial people, do they have a different rule, or are you really good about getting them to be current?
I may invite Cindy Horn up here. She might have an answer for you that's more fitting than my answer. One sec.
Hi, Cindy.
Good afternoon. We have a collection crew that actually calls on all the commercial customers, and we pursue them by phone calls or whatever method, emails, sending them invoices. And we have a very, very successful group that collects on these customers. So we very, very few customers that do not pay us in the commercial sector.
And just curiosity, why is that?
Well, we provide a great service.
Agreed.
And they need that service, so
Agreed.
I think
Okay.
that's the reason why they respond so well.
Sounds good. Okay. And then once a lien goes on here, you still continue to provide trash service even to those that are delinquent. This
correct.
converts to a lien, their account gets reset to zero, so to speak, because the lien's on the property. But you don't stop service because somebody's in arrears, correct?
No, we do not
Okay.
stop service.
Great, thank you.
So if a residential customer, because it takes a while to get up to the $450. If a residential customer, you put a lien on their house, as soon as they pay that off, they'll get the lien removed, correct?
That is correct.
And do they understand that you're putting a lien on their house?
We've been, the reason we've been so successful in getting our list so low is because we've done a lot of education with a lot of these owners. And some of them did not even realize that that lien did exist before. So we've got a real good rapport with these owners and getting them to pay. And they do understand.
Yeah, okay, I just went over the list, I know at least 2 people. And so I was like, dang, I didn't realize that they, were not paying their garbage bill.
There's about 35 of them that continually do not pay and go to lien every year.
I want to point out, Ms. Mitchell, this doesn't go on the property, doesn't wait till the house is sold. This goes on the property tax rolls, so they pay it with their,
For their property
Yeah,
tax, so maybe some
exactly.
of them were just, they just wait.
It's their way to pay it, so.
Okay,
Yeah, I
Never
think
mind.
that's a method that some choose to pay.
okay. Well, I won't go knocking on their doors then. Thank you.
Cindy, I wanted to thank you and Carl and your team for making Edco such a great corporate citizen. You guys are just doing a fantastic job.
Well, we enjoy serving the city, so thank you very much.
Anybody else? Thank you very much. Okay. The public hearing is now open. Angela, do we have any speaker cards for public hearing?
We have no card, sir.
Then I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing. Second. Please vote. All right,
Motion
back to-
carries by unanimous vote.
Back to City Council. Any further discussion, or would somebody like to make a motion?
Move adoption as outlined in the staff report.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Now we're moving on to our most favorite report of the year, the administrative report that starts with Assistant City Manager Vince DiMaggio telling us about legislation that's happening in the state of California.
If this wasn't so tragic, it would be my favorite report of the year. But so we have 2,300 bills that met the filing deadline in February. 300 of them, roughly 15%, have to do with community development or planning related issues. So we're keeping our eyes on many of those, as is the League of California Cities. I'll go over just a few of the more entertaining ones here on your list. And all of them on the list right now, because we're very early in the session, there's some deadlines that are coming up in May. All of them are still in one form or another in committee. There's some that are in the Appropriations Committee or the suspense file. That comes up here in later on in May. And this is the first year of a 2-year session. So a lot of these bills that fail to get out of the suspense file in May come back next year. There's a couple of examples of that, particularly pertaining to police canines. So let me just go over just a few of them very quickly. AB 1333, which we had a special agenda item on because that is the change to the Castle Doctrine, the concept of justifiable homicide while defending home and property. Contrary to what the author has said numerous times in public, this bill is active. It has been amended. It's in committee. It has not been withdrawn. We wrote a letter on it, and so it's still advisable that we keep our eyes on this because it has continued to stay alive despite what has been publicly said by the author. SB 329 by Blakespear, this would actually require the Department of Health and sets up certain timelines that the Department of Health has to investigate complaints regarding drug and alcohol treatment and recovery facilities. So these are facilities that in some instances we have very little regulatory control over, and so this provides a mechanism whereby someone can issue a complaint and that a complaint has to be acted on within a time certain. So I think that's a positive bill. AB 11 is an interesting bill. This creates the California Housing Authority, a statewide housing authority with the ability to produce and finance its own housing throughout the state in various areas, and that housing would count towards the RENA numbers for their jurisdictions. So that could also have an effect in terms of housing production in cities throughout the state, including ours. AB 1154, this would prohibit local agencies from imposing parking standards for accessory dwelling units that are 500 square feet or smaller. It's typically a studio type apartment, so we cannot have development standards that require parking in that case. AB 992 requires police officers to acquire an associate's, bachelor's, or 2 years of military service within 30 months of receiving their post-certification. Another police-oriented bill is AB 400. This would require that every law enforcement agency that operates with a canine unit maintain a policy for the use of the canines that complies with the standards established by post. So there's continuing emphasis on trying to kind of squeeze the regulations on canine units. There's a feeling at the state that basically, I'll just say it for what it is, that police agencies, law enforcement agencies don't know how to handle canine units, and they don't. The people at the state, the legislators at the state, really think that this is like Alabama in the 1960s. That instead of looking at canine units as first line of defense, saving people, saving officers, preventing the drawing of a gun, they think that this is some sort of racially motivated thing, and they're kind of cracking down on canine units. So we continue to watch the erosion of canine units and their use. SB 346, this is another one that could have a positive impact, actually. This allows local agencies to adopt ordinances that require companies such as Airbnb or Vrbo or any sort of rental facilitators to transmit information to the cities to enforce the collection of TOT. So that's positive because it's very difficult to understand what TOT we're receiving, what TOT we're not receiving. I'm going to save the next one here for last because it's the best one. So hold on, and I'll return to SB 634, which is my personal favorite. SB 496, as I said, my staff report, this actually has its origins right here in El Cajon at this table. Mr. Mitchell and I actually were the people who kind of proposed this. This would add public works vehicles as first responder vehicles and exempt them from the electrification mandate. So we came up with this late January, early February, struggled encountered a lot of difficulty trying to find somebody to support this and bring it through the process until Senator Hurtado, using Catherine Hill at the League of California Cities, got this into the office of Senator Hurtado, and it's been going through the process very quickly. So the idea being on the heels of the LA fires, that if a fire were to happen here locally, our thought was if public works vehicles are subject to the electrification mandate and SDG&E, for example, does what they're supposed to do in fire weather is to turn off the electricity, we have a bunch of vehicles that can't respond because they're not charged. Okay, that's fine if they're code enforcement vehicles. It's not fine if they're police, fire, or public works vehicles. As you saw when you had all the public works personnel here just a few minutes ago, they all have a patch saying first responders. So we do depend on them to be an integrated part to our first responder force when disaster strikes. So it only makes sense that as we move towards electrification, that we move towards them later as the technology gets better and we don't mandate that their vehicles become electrified under the 2030, 2035 mandate. SB 74 provides gap funding by way of state grants for certain infrastructure projects. So that's good. We have capital improvement projects here in the city that receive funding from general fund, gas tax, grants. So other state grants that could be available would be beneficial to us in doing infrastructure projects. AB 253, this bill would require the city to provide a building permit applicant with an estimated time frame to complete a plan check upon receiving a completed application. I don't know how to recommend how I feel about this. A lot of times, as you know, you will receive inquiries from your constituents about why something is taking so long, and 99% of the time it's because the application isn't complete for one reason or another. This provides this requires us to provide a time frame for when we will complete the building permit review and issue the building permit and complete the plan check after the application has been completed. So obviously they have to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. AB 507 allows adaptive reuse convert of an existing commercial building by right in all zones, regardless of the zoning of the site, and subjects it to a streamlined 60-day ministerial process. So this is one of those examples where the people in Sacramento don't know anything about city planning, because you have allowing this in all zones is very dangerous, because you have zones that are specific. The infrastructure for zones is done specific to that zone's usage. So if you have an industrial zone, the water, the sewer, the storm drain, all of the infrastructure is specific to why that zone is there and how that zone was planned to be there. Allowing adaptive reuse and then allowing large, high density in that adaptive reuse is going to stress the system. Just like SB 9, the SB 9, when you talk about the lateral that runs to your house, it's most likely an inch or an inch and a half. If you're teeing off of that, 3 more lines, you're going to stress the system. So this continually is a lack of understanding about how infrastructure is stressed when you allow this type of adaptive reuse.
Quick question about that.
Yes, please.
A lot of these by right zoning bills that are coming out of Sacramento always slip in a prevailing wage requirement. Do you know if this bill has that prevailing wage requirement?
I can't answer that. I'll make a note to myself and be sure that that's in the future updates.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. SB 79 by Senator Wiener. This would upzone multifamily residential units within a quarter mile of major transit stops and would essentially allow development to be 85 feet high with 140 dwelling units per acre. Exactly what I just got through saying with the previous bill. This is very typical of Senator Wiener. He is the #1 person to try and eliminate local zoning and to force the cities of California to adopt basically a statewide zoning ordinance. And so he continues to do things like this, and they're very detrimental, as is the next bill, SB 677. This is significant reforms to SB 9, such as ministerial approving duplexes in single-family zones. We cannot prohibit 2 units. It deletes setback requirements. We cannot require setback requirements for existing structures that don't meet the earlier setback requirements, and they cannot require more than 1 parking space for duplexes. These are all elements of SB 677. And then finally, my favorite bill, which I'm sure the public will love, is SB 634, also by Senator Wiener. This bill would prevent cities from interfering with anyone who is homeless and pursuing activities pertaining to their basic survival, which is defined specifically as erecting and living in tents. So if approved, if this becomes law, cities would not effectively be able to get rid of homeless encampments. That's considered basic survival. Tents are specifically mentioned in this bill as being part of basic survival under the definition, and I use air quotes, basic survival. And so this is moving very quickly. This looks like it will clear the Senate within days. It will go over to the Assembly. You have to ask yourself now, what will the governor do? Because the governor clearly has higher level political ambitions. Something this dramatic is not going to be very popular to his aspirations. So I think he'll veto it if it passes. If it passes and he does sign it, it's going to be dramatic and detrimental. So we need to keep our eyes on this very, very, very closely. So in closing, I'll just reiterate that we're paying attention to some deadlines that are coming up here in the next couple of weeks, and then the bills really start to move into the specific committees. They'll either fall off and die, or they'll gain some momentum, and we'll be looking at that throughout the summer. And then, as I usually do, I'll come back with the second legislative update with what has passed, or if it looks like something that we discovered along the way that wasn't mentioned in this report, or something that is particularly applicable to our interests, and we need your action on it, I'll bring it back separately. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Question? Go ahead.
I have one more question. It was on AB 750. Says requires the city or county to perform an annual inspection of every homeless shelter located in its jurisdiction. It would authorize, what is their definition of an annual inspection? I mean, obviously this one and the one you just referenced, SB 634, kind of seem like they're working in conjunction to establish homeless encampments permanently, and then we have to, I mean, what are we doing? Code inspections on their structures?
Well, this one pertains specifically to actual designated homeless shelters. So not
okay, not
encampments.
encampments.
Not
It's
encampments,
shelters. Okay.
Yes.
That's okay. Thank you.
SB 634, the last one, prohibits cities from adopting or enforcing ordinances that prohibits a person or organization from assisting a homeless person with basic survival. But just this paragraph says, I can't prevent somebody from helping somebody else get a tent. I think what the Supreme Court says is, but we can say where you cannot put that tent. Is that?
I think it lines up for that conflict. I think clearly sometimes these bills get passed and they're going to be in direct conflict with, all United States Supreme Court rulings that have already ruled on the issue. So it would take, in other words, the bill would have to be passed and signed, and then somebody would have to challenge it against that Supreme Court opinion and line up for the challenge.
Okay, thank you.
Just out of curiosity, that bill, how would that bill take into account private property? So if somebody wanted to set up a tent encampment on my front yard, would the police not be able to stop that from happening?
Well, that's a trespass. So there's laws already. Okay. You know, you have the right. I mean, as a property owner, private property has the right of exclusion. So you have the right to exclude people from private property, and there's a number of laws that are already on the books.
This would
for that.
all be public right of way.
This would all be like public right of way, sidewalks, what we see on the Caltrans areas, things like that.
And then the other one that kind of scares me a little bit is this idea about letting buildings be, what would you say the height?
The Wiener bill that talks about the 85-foot tall. Is that the one?
So I'm just curious, how would that work? So if they allow that by right to build these things against design standards, against city, the way they want their city to be, what would happen in regards to like fire departments? What about cities that didn't have ladder trucks? And
I think that's an excellent question. I don't have an answer for it.
Okay, so but basically it's the same old thing, is you're going to comply and we'll worry about problems later.
Yes, that's been, particularly with Senator Wiener's bills, that's been exactly how it's been. And what I find striking in all three examples of Senator Wiener's bills is he now has seniority. He's successfully able to either bypass, which he did with one of these bills. He literally bypassed the committee with one of these bills, and he somehow managed to lobby the other committee members over the recommendation of the committee chair to deny the bill and kill it in committee. He managed to circumvent that process and get enough votes to get it out of committee. So he's learning how to do this in a much more efficient, effective way. And that's concerning, because his bills are very, very detrimental, very radical, and at least the public down here is not going to like them. Obviously he keeps getting reelected in San Francisco, but I don't think the public in El Cajon would take too kindly to this.
No, I think so. All right, thank you so much. Any more questions?
Yeah, you raise a good question about the height of a building. How many stories can our current fire equipment reach?
I'm looking at my experts. There's the chief.
So if we had a 7-story building, we could evacuate that person with a ladder truck? Okay, great. Good to know. Thanks.
Imagine if you're a small municipality that could never afford that. All right. That's it. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate that. Oh, are there any speaker cards on this item?
We do. We have one from Truth.
Yeah.
I actually really love hearing about how California is going to be destroyed by legal but unlawful bills. And actually that word eradicate kind of comes to my mind when I think of certain politicians. I don't like to be violent though, but AB 1333, it's good to continue to oppose it. And public enemy number one, I think, is what we have determined that Scott Wiener actually is. SB 634 sounds pretty dangerous, because if living in tents is California's idea of basic survival, that's evidence that everything's going the wrong direction. Because why else would a state in this prosperous country and prosperous state be reduced to the status of basic survival? Mad. And Steve, I actually had the same question, because what about case precedents for removing encampments? Just going to ignore law. And thank you, Graham and Vince, for SB 469, because anything that could potentially save this city and country from expensive and dangerous fire-prone electric vehicles is a good thing. And SB 569 is probably the only good thing Catherine Blakespeare's ever introduced. I actually saw her on the news outside the county building, and I couldn't tell the difference between her and Supervisor Terry Lawson Reamer, a.k.a. TDS is real. And SB 329, giving 10 days for the state to investigate complaints at treatment facilities, is still too long, but I'm curious, how long was it before? And SB 707, I'm looking forward to every city having to implement a remote participation option for everybody, because that's definitely going to make meetings much longer. and with outside participants, but I do believe more access is a positive, not a negative in the very long run. May not feel like it, though. And AB 736, a $10 billion debt bond to build stack and packs. What could go wrong? The bill about police or deputies having to get degrees, who's going to pay for it? Is it going to be taxpayer subsidized? Is it going to be time off? What if it takes some years to graduate? And SB 696, a 5-year exemption on sales tax for fire trucks and equipment. Will that mean water is going to be available for the fires too? Maybe we should ask Newscom about that. And then it also makes me question, is it that easy to waive taxes? Although why don't we do it for everything? And AB 39, cities forced to plan for toxic EV infrastructure. I guess Elon's considered good again. And AB 1206, it seems like it's about government planning to steal single-family homes right out of people's neighborhoods. That's how I read it. And SB 79 from Pervert Wiener to have 85-foot high stack of packs. That is going to be really fun. My best for last is actually AB 7. Colleges giving preferential admission to alleged descendants of slavery. What a bunch of racist anti-science garbage. Who isn't a descendant of some kind of slavery? I'd like to know. And that was introduced by Assemblymember Isaac Bryan, located in South Central LA, a hotbed of radicalism, to put it lightly. And I ask, what about AB 1421, the mileage tax? That wasn't in there, because that's still going until 2035. And can we be real about these bills? These assembly members and senators know exactly what they're introducing. They are in the process of trying to take down this state. And I am curious where they're going to leave after all the damage. Oh yeah, they got their gated communities, usually in different states, kind of like the scum who thinks he's going to become president. But in summary, for all of this, it's comply and die. So don't do it. You got to fight things. Thank you.
Thanks, Truth. Anybody else?
No other speakers.
Do you need us to vote on this? Okay, thank you. All right. The last administrative report on today's agenda, item 13, is a report on the American Rescue Plan Act, acceptance of final obligations. And staff, please tell us about this.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Thank you. Alrighty. Hello, good afternoon, Mayor and City Council members. My name is Ryan Villegas. I'm a Senior Management Analyst in the City Manager's Office, and today I will be presenting a report on the final obligations for the American Rescue Plan Act funds, or ARPA. So as a little background, in May of 2021, the city received $30,399,751 in American Rescue Plan Act funding, or ARPA. And these funds funded 26 projects in total, 13 of which are completed. The purpose of this report is to present the final dollar amounts obligated following the obligation deadline that took place at the end of this last year. All right, so on this slide, I did break it down into the next two slides because I know it's hard to read, but I wanted to show all the projects at least in one table. And so we're going to go ahead and move into this next slide, which has the first half of the projects on that table. This is essentially those that are completed with two that were canceled. And so going down the list, we have the social worker response team. That was a project that initially the city planned on doing, but then we learned that the County of San Diego was planning on administering a similar program, so that program never came to fruition. The solar PV and battery storage, this project was canceled. It ran into challenges when going out to bid, and the city was unable to come to an agreement during negotiations. We have the completed projects, which are Foodie Fest, Vaccine Hotline, Dollar Days, Economic Development. There's the Business License Assistance Program. We have the Emergency Homeless Sleeping Cabins, the LED mobile screen wall. We have the digital radar signs, the street camera systems, those are the flock cameras, emergency Wells Park restroom repairs, ARPA admin, that is for ARPA audits that are required yearly, and the city is able to use ARPA funds to pay for those audits, actually. We have the business grant program, which is the first round of business grants that were funded through ARPA. And then we have firefighter wellness, which is the cold plunges that were recently purchased for the firefighters. And then on the next slide, we have the second half of that same table. This slide shows the projects that are still in progress, nearing completion, with all projects will be completed by next year. It also shows the funds which are not captured, and so we'll go down this list. So again, we have the firefighter wellness. The budget there was $68,000. The 4 cold plunges that were purchased came in just under that $68,000, so $116 was not captured. We have the city network, cybersecurity, and expand broadband. The IT department is working towards moving that project towards completion. We have the rec center upgrades that's improving the HVAC and other improvements to 3 of our recreation centers here in the city. We have the citywide street beautification and park amenities. You can see the final obligations amounts there. That came from the contract agreements and contingencies under those 2 projects, and so the final obligation amounts are there. Aerial platform truck, that apparatus has been ordered and paid for, and it is expected to be delivered spring of next year. And then, let's see, where am I? Small business incubator. We're going to revisit that actually at the second part of this presentation, so we'll come back to that in just a few minutes. The business facade grant program, that's the sign grant program for the businesses. Chris Berg, the city's marketing and engagement manager, will actually provide a closeout or update for that project at a near upcoming city council meeting. The fire engine and equipment, that one. So this project came in under budget because when this project was being planned, it was estimated that the fire engine was going to be approximately $1.5 million, and the city had received a grant for $1 million through the San Diego River Conservancy. And so the $500 that was budgeted for this out of ARPA was to supplement that. And then when ultimately the engine came in at just under $1.2 million, so therefore that's all that originally was used out of this. And then so the fire department really essentially scrambled to try to purchase as much as they could, big ticket items, to try to capture the rest of that. And so once the end of the year hit, that was the amount that was able to be captured. And then, let's see, we have public safety and public works vehicles. Currently, we have 43 of 51 vehicles that we've received already, so that's pretty exciting right there. And then we have the newcomers support and development. And then we also have the downtown public space enhancements. So that one, the project is actually being brought up to the agreement amount. If you recall, the economic development ARP 08 project used to previously served as sort of the holding account, and then for unused funds, and then we were trying to identify project ideas and things like that. And so that project, those funds ultimately funded the firefighter wellness, the incubator, and a few other things up there, and what was left went to the downtown public space enhancements. And so with some of these residuals, it's being brought up to that $300,000 that's in the agreement there. And that said, so through all those projects, so the total ARPA funds that were received was the $30,399,751. The final obligations brings it to $30,232,505, which is 99.45% of the total of the 100%. And then the funds not captured is that $167,246 that you see right there, which is about 0.5%. Okay, and so we have some pictures of some of the projects that are ongoing, nearing completion. First, we have the pickleball courts at Wells Park. On the left side, you can see the pickleball courts coming to life there. And on the right side is some of the improvements that are being done to the Wells Park Center to support the pickleball activity. And then here we have the recreation center upgrades. Here's a mechanical floor plan. Pictures are a little bit easier. There's the diagram, if you will, for some of the improvements for the HVAC systems there. And then next we have some of the street beautifications going on 2nd Street and Hamishaw Road from the southern to the northern city limits. There's also landscaping and other enhancements along Oakdale, just south of the 8 freeway. So that's that entire stretch of that corridor. And so you can see some repaving that's going on there. All right. And then, so for the next section of this report, we'll provide an update to the El Cajon Small Business Center, the Small Business Incubator. And for this, I will hand the presentation over to Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Villegas. So, as you recall, we used some of the ARPA funds to purchase the building at 405 East Lexington, and we entered into 2 lease agreements, both with the Chaldean Community Council, but one to operate more of the social services and the others to operate the Small Business Incubator. And through the Small Business Incubator, we have been able to fund some of the tenant improvements that are required to make that functional. So those tenant improvements are underway right now. I believe the demolition is completely done. They're currently working to procure a general contractor to do the rest of the tenant improvements. So they're really without an office space as of this point. However, they have been marketing and trying to work on attraction for participants. This is a flyer that's on the dais that shows the program that they offer. As you can see, it's in both English and in Arabic. We have reached out to them about the need to include material in Spanish as well, and probably Farsi, not Farsi, but Pashto, or any languages that are spoken by Afghanis. And so we're expecting to see that, especially as the office space does open up. They have 6 initial clients, and again, some of them are waiting for the space. These are the names of the clients thus far, the types of businesses that they are working on, helping them get established, their ownership type, and then where they're currently located. And as you recall, they don't have to all be located in El Cajon, but the majority have to be in El Cajon because there's some funding from some outside sources to fund the small business center. So with that, staff's able to answer any questions that you have about any of these projects, including the business incubator. And then Mr. Villegas has 2 recommendations. I'll let him finalize.
Thank you. And so the recommendation before you today is that the City Council appropriate and deappropriate ARPA funds not captured as outlined in the report, and grant the city manager authority to return funds as required under ARPA.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Questions? We'll start with Michelle and move down the line.
Ryan, can you go back more? Go back to the dollar. Yeah. Okay. So, from what I'm understanding correctly, we have to return, or we are going to be returning, 167,246.
Yes.
So we couldn't take 100,000 and put that to save the emergency homeless sleeping cabins, since they're
That's correct.
growing.
Because as of the end of the deadline, we can't move money around
Okay.
at this point. And as you recall, we created a scenario. We thought we were outsmarting the regulations where we could put any unspent money into that last category, that ARP 25.
Right.
But the regulations outsmarted us, and there's no loophole that we thought we could take
Okay.
advantage of.
So we just didn't, we were just unable to come up with any more projects before the deadline.
We didn't know the final cost of the fire engine specifically until after the deadline. So that was what we scrambled to
Okay,
get to.
thank you.
Ryan, could you go to the next slide?
Yes.
So there's variation in the dollar amounts. Do we anticipate any more variation as these projects move forward, whether coming in under or over budget?
As I understand, it depends on some of the contract contingencies or change orders that may come. And so this is attempting to forecast that as far as the final obligations are concerned. So as we see it now, no, but if it is the case in the future, we would bring that back to the City Council.
Because, and imagine, rec center upgrades, $3 million. As the project progresses, change order, like you said, $100,000, then we'd say we either scrap the whole project halfway or we come in with general fund reserves to complete the project.
Right.
That's kind of the strategy.
Yes.
And right now, are we confident in those numbers coming in on budget, or do we have an estimation, or is that too early to tell based off of all these projects? Because I know we're casting a wide, there's a lot of different projects,
Right.
and we're tracking a lot of different things, but do we have any sense of?
So the communications that I've had with the project manager specifically on those park amenities, the citywide street beautification, is that they are quite confident that they will hit at least that 2.8. I may defer to them if they for further clarification.
Well, I mean, I guess not
Sure.
those specifically, but
Sure.
just generally speaking, like 0.55%. That's perfect. Statistically, that's perfect using all the money. But I guess my question is how close are we? Are we going to be within 1 or 2% of that budget of not going over that budget? I guess
We should be. I mean, one of the other things, especially the engineering type projects, they always build in some contingency
Okay.
into those projects, and that's why we're having to return some of the money
because we didn't
on
hit those contingencies.
Exactly right.
Got it.
Which is in some ways a good thing, right? I mean,
Yes.
we're saving the taxpayer money. We're not just throwing the money away.
Yep.
However, we have created with some of our projects, like the recreation center and the beautification, abilities to expand the contract within the ARPA envelope. So let's say they come in under budget, we have the ability to add on some things.
Another drinking fountain or something.
That's
like
exactly
that.
right. To hit that
Got
mark.
it.
That's the goal.
Okay, thank you.
I think so far that you've spent 99.45% is great performance for the people of El Cajon. You've gotten a lot of value for the allowance, so thank you on behalf of the people of El Cajon for great work. Let me zero back in on this over-under thing. So are these projects all finite? I can't, if I'm over on one project and under on another, I can't make them wash.
That's correct.
Okay, so it's a fixed budget. That was the commitment. Can we talk about the small business incubator at this time? So 3.072 million, does that include the purchase of the building?
That does.
Okay. And when did the lease start?
The lease started a little over a year ago, I believe, March.
Last May.
Last May 2024.
May of 2024. So that's the start of their term. Okay. And I think the incubator was a 3-year term.
That's correct.
I think the CCC was a 5-year term. So we're already 1 year into a 3-year term?
I believe they are both 3-year terms, but I could be wrong. Mr.
I believe
Vegas,
they're
you
both
remember?
3-year terms.
Yeah, I believe they're both 3-year agreements.
So is there any extension to the terms because 1 year is done and we're not in business yet?
We're not recommending that. I mean, if that request is made, that will be something the council has to consider. We're not recommending that at this time.
I guess I'm kind of sounding the concern that we're already 1 year into a 3-year term and we're not open for operations in a sense. And I don't know that the council is, I don't want to say that. It will be interesting to see if an extension is asked for beyond the 3-year term.
And as you recall, it's one of the reasons why we entered that grant agreement also for them to initiate the capital improvement project. So it's not waiting for us, it's them that are initiating those TIs.
And we provided the money for the TIs, correct?
That's correct.
They just had to execute the administration of those funds.
Correct. And also following federal ARPA regulations, which is the big challenge. So.
Okay, thank you.
Gary? I am as well. Do you have any speaker cards on this item?
One from Truth.
Thanks, Ryan.
I mostly just wanted to speak on this so I could say, speaking of complying and dying, that's how we got here. From the American Ruination Plan Act, El Cajon received $30 million debt dollars in 2021. And I just want people to think about that because that's just one city. How many cities in this entire country got $30 million or even more? Maybe a little bit less. And then you wonder, why is there extreme inflation? Oh, because the city accepted it, and so did every other city. Because you can't just blame Biden, because, yeah, he was the one signing off, yay, print it, print it, print it. But then everybody willingly spent it, and that's how we got here. So I really wish people in office would take responsibility. And that, of course, that's the negative side. What's the positive side? Look at all these projects we got. And I agree, 99.45% of what was allocated, that's a really good job on that. Talk about getting your numbers right. The only questionable spending I had was $6,000 on a vaccine hotline. What for? Want to call about what you shouldn't get? What could possibly kill you, injure you? Because I don't know about you guys, but I know most people I know at least one person who died after getting the shot. Not to mention, those are the people that are always sick. Always, always sick. And I'm just speaking real because no one ever talks about it. It needs to be said. And then you had, I don't know how many millions to the flock spy cameras. Good to know that the police state was financed thanks to the American Ruination Plan Act. And just to trigger people, I want to say pickleball is also questionable spending. Who's mad by that? Somebody will be mad. If they're not in this room watching it, they're going to be mad that I said that. I just did that on purpose for fun. But yes, the rest of it, good projects. But as life becomes more overpriced and possibly overpriced due to the inflation caused by this spending, I just ask, who's going to be left to enjoy it? Because more people are going to leave the state. I'll probably eventually going to be one of those people who join those ranks of people that move to the free states. It's not a bad thing to do, but it's too bad that this type of spending has to continually happening in the state where we have billions missing in audits. We don't know where it went. And I want to see a path forward where things get better. We start going, you know what? This isn't working. I don't care what my personal beliefs or my personal party is, but we're going, this doesn't work. We're going a different direction. And it's going to have to be a hard line in the sand. And ARPA was the complete opposite of that. So that's what I'm saying. Got to go this way instead of the continual direction. And it's just coincidence that I'm pointing left. That's all. Thank you.
Yeah, Gary.
Question for the city manager. How many crimes that those flock cameras solve?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't know if the chief does. High numbers. We can get that for the council, though.
Okay, thank you.
All right, back to council. I'm looking for discussion or a motion.
Move adoption as outlined in the staff report, recommendations 1 and 2.
Second.
Please vote.
Mr. Kendrick, may I please have your vote?
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Motion carries by unanimous vote.
All right. We have no commission reports on today's agenda. Item 14 is my activities report, which is as reported. And now I'm going to go down the line and ask Mayor Pro Tem Gary Kendrick.
As reported.
Councilmember Goebel.
As reported.
Councilmember Mitchell. Councilmember Ortiz.
As reported.
There are no joint councilmember reports, no general information items, and no first readings of ordinances on today's report. We have several second reading and adoption of ordinances on today's agenda. Item 19 is a zoning code update. I'll ask the city clerk to read the title, but first, Angela, are there any speaker cards for this item?
No speaker card, sir.
Then would you mind reading the title of the ordinance?
The title reads, an ordinance approving an amendment to Title 17 of the El Cajon Municipal Code, zoning code, for housing, commercial land uses, permits streamlining, and other minor technical changes, revisions, and edits.
All right. May we have a motion for that?
The question before that, just to confirm
We removed section 20 and renumbered the rest of those below it.
and section 20 was the emergency cabin section.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Next, item 20 is for an amendment to CalPERS for the El Cajon Police Officers Association and Police Officers Association Management Group. I will ask the city clerk to read the title, but first, Angela, are there any speaker cards for this item?
No speaker cards.
Would you mind then reciting the title?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of El Cajon approving an amendment to the contract between the City of El Cajon and the Board of Administration, California Public Employees Retirement Systems.
I'll make a motion to adopt.
Second.
Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Item 21 is for the implementation of a fee for non-emergent lift assistance. And I'll ask City Clerk to read this title, but first, Angela, any speaker cards for this item?
No speaker cards.
Then please read the title.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of El Cajon enacting Chapter 8.09 of the El Cajon Municipal Code to implement a fee for non-emergency lift assistance at licensed care facilities.
Make a motion to adopt. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
Item 21 is for the designation of a fire hazard severity zone. I'll ask the city clerk to read the title, but first, Angela, are there any speaker cards?
Mayor, prior to that, I just want to point out there was something passed out to you of public comment. If you would,
Yes.
if you've seen that in your dice, I think the gentleman was mistaken because I've confirmed with Chief Coe that all we are doing is doing what we have to do by the state, is adopting the fire marshal's designated zones, no more, no less.
All right, thanks for the clarification. I appreciate that.
No other speaker cards.
No speaker cards, okay. So then, would you read the title, please?
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of El Cajon to designate fire hazard severity zones.
Make a motion to adopt. Please vote.
Motion carries by unanimous vote.
This brings us to the adjournment, the regular joint meeting of the El Cajon City Council, El Cajon Housing Authority successor agency to the El Cajon Redevelopment Agency, held this 13th day of May, 2025, is adjourned until Tuesday, May 27th, 2025 at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you all very much and have a great day. Thanks. You're really good at this. Okay, thank you.